You guys have some amazing pastors here. Can we give it up for them? Come on. This is your moment. This is your moment. Those are the words that I kept saying to myself. On a Sunday morning around 7 a.m. in Chattanooga, Tennessee, I was in a neighborhood park, and the energy was electric because it was my buddy Josh and hundreds of others around us, and we funneled towards the end of the park, towards the Tennessee River, and we just kept saying to ourselves, this is your moment. And I looked at Josh and I said, it's about to be a long day. And as we got closer to the Tennessee River, I heard this splash, 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 splash. One by one, people were jumping in. You see, about a year before that, Josh came up to me and said, hey, what do you think about challenging ourselves to a level that we've never done before? And I said, what do you have in mind? He goes, Iron Man, dude. Iron Man. I'm like, nope. He goes, come on, let's do it. And with some gentle persuasion, he convinced me. And so here we were at the starting line in Chattanooga, Tennessee, getting ready to jump into the water and begin what would be the longest day of my life. Now, for those of you that don't know what the Ironman is, it's a triathlon, and it's where you swim, you bike, and you run. And the idea is that you just have to finish in 17 hours. That's it. And I signed up for this. I said yes. Swim, bike, run. And so the swim portion is 2.4 miles. And for those of you that don't know how far that is, like in a lap pool, that's 160 laps. And then after you're done with the swim, you jump on your road bike, and you, for this particular race, you ride 116 miles. Okay? And so for those of you that don't know how far that is, it's like going from Titusville to Tampa. So you're going all across the state, and it's not flat in Georgia and Tennessee where we were riding. No, it was like going over causeways the entire way to Tampa. And then whenever I'm done, I get to jump off my bike, throw on my sneakers, and run a short little stroll of 26.2 miles. Matt, let's do it, man. Let's do Ironman. I'm like, you're nuts. Okay, let's go for it. This is your moment. That's what we kept saying to ourselves. This is your moment. And so we jumped in to the start of the longest day ever. The first hour was awesome. Like, I felt like I killed it in the swim, man. My adrenaline was pumping. I got out. Josh and I saw each other. We actually stayed pretty close to one another. We high-fived, transitioned. We jumped on the bike. And what began, for me, about 7 hours on the bike. And I saw Josh at one time, and then I passed him, and that was the last I saw him of the entire day. But there was these unique little moments throughout the day where they're just awesome. Like, as long and as grueling as it was, there was just these moments that were just really cool. Like the people on the side of the road, they would hold up signs and encourage you. Halfway through the bike, I saw my family, my wife and kids were there, and they gave me my lunch. They brought me Subway, and so I grabbed my lunch, gave my wife a kiss, jumped back on my bike, ate my Subway on my bike, and then finally, somehow, to the end of the bike portion, I finished. I don't know, it was probably like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I remember coming up, so in Ironman, they have these people that receive your bike. So whenever you're getting ready to transition, you just kind of hand them your bike, and they take it back to your spot. And whenever I handed on my bike, I go, burn that damn thing. I'm like, I don't want to see that thing ever again. And I walk over, I limp over to the transition area, doing this little swaddle, like it was everything hurt. My legs were complete jello. I put on my sneakers, and I began what was the marathon portion of the Ironman. And I don't know if you guys have ever ran marathons or heard about them, but there's this thing called the wall. At a mile 21 or 22, you hit this thing called the wall where your body is completely depleted. Like your physical energy is gone, your glucose level is gone, so you're actually running on fat and it's burning, and your mind is going numb, and you're going, how do I even get to this next level? This is around mile 19, 20, or 21, somewhere around there is this wall. Well, I hit the wall at the Ironman at mile 2. I'm like, I don't know how I'm even going to get to mile 3 or 4 or 13, much less 26. But my short-term goal was, I just got to get to 13 because that's where I'm going to see my family again. That's where I'm going to see my wife. And as the miles piled on, oh my gosh, I was in so much pain. Like everything, mile 8, mile 9, my feet hurt, my calves hurt, my thighs hurt, my shoulders hurt. Like I found myself in so much pain, taking every single step, and my mind was getting into a very negative place. Like that adrenaline and that super pump feeling that Josh and I had at the start was long gone, man. It was so challenging. And I remember going around the corner at mile 13 whenever I was waiting to see my wife. And I was in such a dark, negative place, you guys. I'm just being real. I was not wanting to carry on. And I run around the corner and I see my wife, and my kids are there shaking the bells. Woo! Dad, you're doing great. You're doing great. Keep going, Dad. My wife has the video camera, her camera phone, and she's just like, she runs up next to me. She's like, Matt, you're doing great. Everybody's watching you. All the family and friends, they're all watching me. You're killing it. You're halfway through the marathon. Tell everybody, how do you feel? And I'm like, turn that camera off. I feel like I'm going to die. I said, no, seriously, I'm thinking about quitting. But that particular moment was like a defining moment for me that day. It's taught me a lot. That particular moment in that mile 13 and 14 and 15 taught me so much about myself. And the reason why is because I actually could have quit. I could have said, I'm done here. No one would have blamed me. I already went 116 on the bike, 2.4 in the water, and 13. No one would have blamed me if I would have just stopped at that point. But I knew that I needed to carry on. And by the grace of God, and I mean that, and I'll share more about that in just a little bit, by the grace of God, somehow I made it all the way to mile 26.2, the red carpet, and I heard the words as I approached the finish line, Matt, you are an Ironman. Thank God. And then I puked 4 times. That moment, that was a defining moment for me, that mile 13. About a year ago, a buddy of mine sent me a text message that said, time is measured in minutes, but life is measured in moments. Make the most of every moment today. That was from Brad. Little did he know it would have such an impact on my life, that particular text, because it's so true. Time is measured in minutes, but life is measured in moments. And guys, the clock is ticking. The clock is ticking for us. What are we going to do with our minutes? What are we going to do with our days? We all get the same amount. We have 365 days. We have 52 weeks. We have a little over 8,000 minutes. We have over 500,000 or 8,000 hours, 500,000 minutes every single year. What are we going to do with the time that we have? It just takes one moment to change your life forever. One moment. See, there's small moments that make up our lives every single year, and there are big, defining moments that make up our lives. Small moments can be something like that time where you teach your son or your daughter how to swing a golf club or bait a hook, or that small moment where you're walking alone on the beach and just admiring the beauty and the creation that God put in place. And you feel his whisper, his closeness. Those small moments make up our lives every day, every week. And then there's big moments. There's these big defining moments, these moments of truth, these moments that redirect our lives, our spiritual lives. They shape our character as men. They change us. They set our families in a particular direction. They guide our families. They change our communities. These defining moments really help shape us into the men that we are today. I remember at my wedding day, a specific word that an employee of mine mentioned to me that has still stuck with me to this day. It shaped me. But we have to be careful because we have to be careful with the way that we handle our responses to these moments. Listen to what Paul says in Ephesians. He says, "Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity or moment, because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is." You see, we're always moving. We're on a spiritual journey. Whether you know it or not, or whether you believe it or not, you are on a spiritual journey, and you're always moving. You're either moving forward or you're moving backwards. You're moving forward towards God, or you're moving backwards away from Him. And I would even say that if you're not moving forward, you're actually moving backwards. Because the river current of culture and this world will float you towards destruction if you're not careful. You see, the Christian life is an intentional life. It takes courage. It takes a decision. Am I going to be courageous? Am I going to fight for what is good? And so I want to talk to you tonight about these specific moments, and not the little ones, but the big ones. These defining moments that shape our lives. Because they're going to come. They're going to come this year. They're going to come in the next couple weeks. For many of us, we're going to have a defining moment tonight, a moment of truth tonight. And every time we come up to these moments of truth, these defining moments, there's some different aspects I want us to be ready for. And the first one is decision. Every single time that we come up to this defining moment in our lives, a decision will need to be made. Remember when Jesus was getting ready for his ministry, and he was led into the wilderness by the Holy Spirit for 40 days, 40 nights, right? And he was getting ready for one of the biggest moments of his life on earth, which was starting this ministry to tell the world about the kingdom of God, right? And there's many defining moments that Jesus had, but this is one of the first ones, and it was a very important one. And what happened was Jesus was led into this wilderness, and he was tempted. Satan, in his crafty ways, decides that he wants to test Jesus in three ways: the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life. Now, Jesus, just so you guys know, let's set it straight real quick. Jesus is fully God and fully man. He's not 50% God, 50% man. He's 100% God and 100% man. That means he completely understands everything that we're tempted by, everything that we go through as men. He understands. Like, he can truly empathize because he's going through it, and we get to actually read about it and understand that here. And so the first way that the enemy loves to tempt us is the lust of the eyes, and that's what he does with Jesus. And the lust of the eyes is just the things that we can see, the things that we see that we crave, that we desire, that we want. And so Jesus is taken to the top of this mountain, and Satan's there, and he goes, "Look at it. Look at it. Do you see it? Do you see it? The kingdoms, palaces. It's all mine. Do you want it? Look at it. Isn't it beautiful? Look at the Teslas, the beach houses, the exotic vacations, the hot woman at the gym. Look at it. It's the lust of the eyes. Do you want it? It's all of it's mine. All you have to do, Jesus, is just bow down and worship me. You remember what he said? No. No, I'm not doing that. He says, you are to worship the Lord your God and serve only him. A couple weeks ago, my wife goes, you sure do smack my butt a lot when you walk by me. I go, well, you sure do wear a lot of yoga pants. My father-in-law's in the room. I better leave it at that. Which leads me to the lust of the flesh. The lust of the flesh is carnal things, things that we love to consume. Good food, which we need to live on, right? Nothing wrong with it by itself. Drink. Some of us like to drink. What about sex? Made for marriage. But what about when we start consuming these things so much and we desire them so much that they've now kind of started consuming us? That's the lust of the flesh. They've now started consuming us. We start thinking about them, and they become strongholds in our lives where all we want to talk about is this and more to drink, and I can't wait till I get to do this, and I'm just not satisfied until I get this. And the lust of the flesh begins taking over our lives. And Satan knew this. Jesus had been fasting for 40 days and 40 nights. He knew he was hungry. He's fully man. Of course he's hungry. Have you ever fasted that long? I haven't. Yeah. And you're starving, right? And so Satan, in his craftiness, this is what he does to us, guys. This is what he does to us. We have to be ready for this. He goes, I got this great idea. This rock, this stone here, turn it into bread. It'll satisfy the craving, that stomach thing you got going on. It'll help you. It'll make you feel full. That's what you need right now. And Jesus is like, no. No. He says to him, man does not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from God. You see, Jesus had a decision to make. At every moment of truth, every defining moment, he was getting ready to start his ministry. He was being tempted with the lust of the eyes and the lust of the flesh. And he had a decision. Do I follow after my own desires of the flesh and the eyes, or do I follow after God? And you see, we are being asked the same question. Are we going to follow the ways of the world, or are we going to follow what is right and what is true? And the final one, the pride of life. And this is the most sneaky because it's the hardest to detect. It's the hardest to kind of quantify. It's the hardest to touch. It's not as easy as the lust of the eyes and the lust of the flesh. This is the pride of life. It's a haughty kind of arrogant attitude. It's like, everything I've accomplished in life, I did it. Like, I built my business from ground up. My business would not exist if it wasn't for me. I could say the same thing about my Ironman. I'd say, yeah, I trained so much. I carried myself to the end of the finish line. And I would be lying to you if I said that. You know why? You're like, well, Matt, didn't you train? I mean, you technically did. I'm like, yeah, but I contributed nothing to these legs that work. I didn't give myself lungs that helped me breathe all the way to the finish line, just so you guys know. I'm not the one who gave myself a beating heart that pumped blood through my body that I needed to carry me through the entire day. I had nothing to do with any of that. That was all the Lord. You see, He is the creator of science. He is the creator of anatomy. He is the creator of biology. He is the creator of astronomy. The psalmist said, by the breath of His mouth, He unleashes the starry host. He speaks stars into existence. In fact, did you know right now, we're all kind of just sitting in this room. I'm standing, but you guys are sitting. That we're spinning on this planet at 1,000 miles per hour right now. 1,000 miles per hour. You might get motion sickness. And not only that, we're spinning at 1,000 miles per hour, but we're orbiting around the sun at 67,000 miles per hour. You see, God is so much more than we can ever imagine. He creates the cosmos and the galaxies, and He creates us in our anatomy. And so whenever someone says, did you do the Ironman? I say, yeah, but the Lord is the one that carried me through it. You may have started your business and helped it go from 1 employee to 500 employees, but guess what? The Lord is the one that gave you your sharp mind. And just as He gives it to us, He can also take it away at any moment. And if we do not get that, the moment that we begin thinking that we're the ones in control, that we're the ones have got it all together, is the moment the pride of life creeps in and just snares us. And the enemy knows this. He comes at us, men. Satan said to Jesus at the highest point, throw yourself down if you're the Son of God. Prove it to everyone. Prove it. Show them who you are. Throw yourself down. The angels will catch you. And what did Jesus say? Do not put the Lord your God to the test. You see, in these moments of truth, these defining moments that make up our lives, we're all going to face them this year. We have to make a decision. And that decision is, will we follow God or will we follow the ways of ourselves in the world? But I will say this, if you decide to follow God at this moment of truth, it will require courage. It's going to require courage. And courage, by the way, isn't just simply lacking fear. John Wayne actually says it best. He says, courage is being scared to death, but saddling up anyway. See, courage is doing the right thing when no one's looking. Courage is having integrity in my business dealings. Courage is serving others above myself. Above our kitchen or our breakfast table, we have on the wall, it says Svajda family values. And the first letter kind of spell out the word Christ. And they are compassion, humility, responsibility, integrity, serving, tribute, which just means honor. And those are up there to help remind me first, and then I can help remind my kids that as moments come our way, as decisions are made in our family, that we want to run everything through this filter, and all of them will require courage. Courage to do the right thing. I can go on a business trip by myself with my family and wife at home, turn on the TV and watch whatever I want, and nobody will ever know. How will they know? You see, but it takes courage to do the right thing even when no one else is watching. And it takes courage to have integrity, to come home, kiss my wife on the cheek, and then look at my son in the eyes as he goes, Dad, can we watch that movie? And I say, no, we can't. He goes, why not? And I say, because Dad doesn't watch that either. You see, it takes courage to do the right thing on our taxes and have integrity and not cut corners. It takes courage to serve someone in this business transaction, even though it means less profit for ourselves. And I can't think of anyone more courageous in the Bible than David. David and Goliath, you know the story. He's probably around 15. There's some teenagers in the room. He was probably about 15 at the time. David and the Israelites are over here on this hill, as the story goes. The Philistines and Goliath, the giant, were over here on this hill. Goliath, by the way, is about a 9.5 foot, 10 foot, somewhat they say, giant that is just beating his chest. Who's going to fight me? Come on. Who wants me? Has his spear and javelin and sword. Who wants me? And David, just a little shepherd boy. This is what it says in 1 Samuel. Then the Philistine Goliath said, "This day I defy the armies of Israel. Give me a man and let us fight each other." And on hearing the Philistines' word, Saul and all the Israelites, right here, check it out, were dismayed and terrified. Of course they were. This dude is huge. Like, who wants to go against him? And here you have David, this shepherd boy. He comes to Saul and he goes, "Hey, man, I think I'm the guy." And Saul's like, no, you're just a boy. And he goes, "No, man, I'm good." He goes, whenever I was tending my sheep, if the lions or the bears would come, I would actually chase after them with my sling. I'm ready for this. And Saul's like, "Okay, well, it's nice knowing you." And so as the story goes, David went and found his stones, grabbed on. We knew he was really good with the sling. And as he approached Goliath, it says this, that David said to the Philistine, "You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty. And this day the Lord will deliver you into my hands, and I will strike you down, and I'll cut off your head." Does that sound like courage or what? And David knew who was fighting the war. The Lord Almighty. And that's exactly what happened. As we know, he took his sling. Rock hits Goliath right in the forehead, nails him, falls back, and David walks right over, grabs his sword, chops his head off. The amount of courage that it must have taken. You see, that was a moment of truth for David. He was at this moment, this pivotal moment in his life. I'm going to make the decision, and I'm going to have courage. 365 times in the Bible, it tells us to fear not. One for each day, to remind us that we need to have courage. Courage. I know some of you are thinking that. That was the Wizard of Oz. What kind of Goliaths are in your life right now? The Goliath of addiction, the Goliath of alcohol or drugs, the Goliath of adultery or porn, the Goliath of cheating or stealing. What Goliath is on the top of the hill taunting you, coming back over and over and taunting you and going, you can't beat me. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you have that will get rid of me. I'm here and you're stuck with me. Who's that Goliath that's taunting you? I think the Lord is inviting us to slay this dragon once and for all. Amen? Just like David, it's time to cut off his head. If you do, if you have courage, if you make the decision and you have courage and you decide to follow after the Lord in your moment, you know what will happen? Your moment will become momentum. Your moment will become momentum. Momentum to what, Matt? Momentum to fast-tracking you to become exactly who the Lord has designed and purposed you to be. Who wants momentum in their life? I do. He's created each of you, each of us, every single one of us, men, with a specific design and purpose for our lives. And He wants to fulfill that. He wants you to step into that. And you have to do it at your defining moment. You have to make the decision, and you have to have courage. But if you do, He'll create momentum. It will. It will. Do you know why? Because it gets easier and easier every single time we say yes to Him and we say no to the world or our sin. And just like that cartoon when we were little, we were watching it, it would just like build. It was a snowball going down this hill, and it would build and get bigger and bigger and bigger and gain more and more speed, and pretty soon nothing could stop it. That's what happens. Like nothing that comes our way next. It's just, okay, that's not a big deal. That's a little speed bump, no problem. I can take that one. Let's keep going. This life after God, it's actually getting easier. I'm getting momentum. Yes, I feel like this is the person I'm supposed to be. This is the person that God's designed me to be. I'm becoming Him. Does anyone else want that? Amen? No? Yes? I do. I want to live into the purpose that God, the God of the universe, created for me. Peter did it. He denied Jesus many times. He struggled in his faith. And what happened? Jesus kept speaking truth to him. He kept saying, you are the rock that I'll build my church. You are the rock. You're going to do it. Peter, feed my sheep. Feed my sheep, Peter. And what happened? Peter's ministry took off. He began church planting and began being known as one of the greatest evangelists. You see, he was joining God in the mission and the purpose that He was designed. See, we all have a decision in these moments. We're faced with these defining moments, these moments of truth. And we have this decision to make. Do I follow God, or do I follow myself and the way of the world? You see, we're either moving forward towards God or floating backwards away. And one of my favorite movies of all time, The Matrix, Neo is trapped in this computer-generated world, and the world is now ran by the robots and the machines. And Neo is faced with this moment of truth. He's faced with the decision. Do I stay where I'm at, or do I step into this place that I'm destined to be? Watch this clip.
Do you want to know what it is? The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room, you can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
What truth?
That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind. Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
Neo would then go on, sorry to ruin it for you, and he would become the one that would go on and save humanity, right? At mile 15 of my run, I pulled off to the side. I sat down on the side of a curb, and I was in so much pain that water was flowing out of my eyes. And I just prayed to God at that moment. I said, Lord, I know it's just an Ironman and I don't even have to do this, but if you could just make this pain go away right now, I'd really love that. And help me get to this finish line. In about 10 minutes after that, my wife started communicating to like all my followers. She said, Matt's in a lot of pain and he needs a lot of prayer right now. She's just asking if you guys would do that. And after I sat down on that curb, about 10 minutes go by, I walked probably the next half mile. Something happened. I can't explain it more than this, but my pain that was at a level 10 moved to like a level 2. And my mind, it was like a light switch went off. And all of those negative thoughts and like this dark place that I found myself in during that race, now found myself going, I can do this. Now, I can't prove to you anything more than my story, but I will tell you this. The Lord carried me through into that race. He did. And just like David said, it's not my battle. It's the Lord Almighty who does the fighting for me. Men, many of us in this room are at this place where it's time to say, I'm done. I'm done with this Goliath in my life. I've had enough. whatever that Goliath is, it addiction? Is it adultery? What is it? So here's what I want to do. I want to invite you. We're just going to take a moment, just a minute. If you're ready to take a stand and make a decision and have courage and chop this Goliath's head off once and for all and go like, I'm ready. I'm ready to live for the King. This thing that I've been doing, this life after my own desires, and it's just not working anymore. And I'm ready to slay this Goliath once and for all. Here's what I want you to do. If that's you, and this is your moment, it is your moment, by the way. In just a minute, I want to invite you to just stand where you are, whatever your Goliath is. You're making a stand and saying, this is my moment. We're a band of brothers in here. We're a bunch of men. You have the most amazing group of leaders in this church, and this is a safe space. So if you're going to slay that Goliath once and for all tonight, wherever you are, just stand up and say, this is my moment. Good. Who else? Sometimes, I see you. I tell my son this. Sometimes it just takes 10 seconds of courage, man. 10-year-old, I say 10 seconds of courage. That's all you need. This is your moment. Declare it. Say it out loud so we can hear you. Good. I see you. Nice work. Momentum in your life by saying yes to God. That's what happens. He's created each one of you with a unique purpose, a unique design. Comedian can wait. This is your moment. Stand up and tell us. All right, go ahead and grab a seat. Others of us in this room have been running from God. You may have said yes to Him early on, and for whatever reason, you've just said no. And still others have just simply said, no, I've never surrendered my life to Jesus. See, Jesus is who He says He is. He's the way, the truth, and the life. And no one comes to the Father except through Him. No one. He came here. He lived a perfect life. He demonstrated that. He showed us what life could look like. And then He went to the cross, even though He's never sinned. He died, and then He rose again on the third day, defeating death once and for all. He defeated it. Death has no power over Him. And He says, anyone who believes in me will live with me forever. Some of you have never said yes, or some of you have been running like the prodigal from Him for a long time, and tonight's your moment. This is your moment to say yes to Him. So I want to invite you. If that's you, I don't want to leave here without you being able to do business with God. And if that's you, if you want to dine with the King tonight, just stand up and say, this is my moment. This is your moment. It says, here I am. I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and I will eat with that person. The King of the universe wants to dine with you. This is your moment. Let's give all these guys a round of applause. Hey, listen. If you know someone that made a courageous step tonight, if you know that person, would you, after this, remind them and pull them aside and say, I'm proud of you? Because it took a lot of courage. Yeah? Let me pray. God, thank you for your grace. Thank you for these men. God, I pray that you would continue to just stir and to reveal to them who you are. And as you do that, Lord, I pray that you would be glorified and that we would turn from our own ways and we would follow you. Jesus, we love you, and we honor your name tonight here in this room. Amen. Hey, listen, 8,700 hours this year. That's what you get. Make the most of every moment. Love you guys.